We have 3 adopted siblings from Guatemala. Mason is 4, Parker is 6, and then Lauren, who's 12. And then we have twins who just turned 1. So we have a very busy family. Mason was born with a very rare genetic disorder called Wiskalt-Aldrich syndrome. It is a bleeding disorder to where he was bleeding internally and externally all the time. We were fortunate enough to bring him home at 5 months old. And as soon as we got him home, we took him to the hospital where it took him 8 weeks to figure out what was wrong with him. But because of his disorder, he also did not have a functioning immune system. So he was constantly battling bacterial and fungal infections. He was basically hanging on to life every second of every day. I came home with Mason from the hospital after being in the hospital for 18 months and was very lost and lonely and confused and desperate for some help as to how to adjust from living in a hospital to living at home. At first I was so excited, like we could not get home fast enough. All I ever wanted to do was get home and start being a family. And I remember the first day we came home and we didn't have our nurses. And how was I to know if there was something going on with Mason that I couldn't see? The anxiety is there. There's a lot of anxiety that goes on when you're left to deal with your child by yourself after you've had all this help. Someone suggested that I call the Center for Children and Families and talk to them about helping Mason and I adjust back into a normal home life, because doing that was overwhelming and absolutely terrifying.
We gathered a team, and I was the person that was working with Carol, and while other of CCFI staff work with the children. The first thing that you do with any family is mostly just be there to witness their story and to hear what it is that they've been through and the worries that they have and the fears that they have and the delight that they have in their child, and to just get a picture and give that family a chance to say things that may be difficult to say, that I don't always know what to do for my child. I don't always know how to keep going.
The Center for Children and Families came out to our house and worked with Mason and I and came up with a plan as to help us adjust to being at home. I couldn't even hold Mason's hand because he had been held down so many times to be poked and prodded and pricked, and to be his mom and not be able to just hold his hand or rub his arm. I couldn't even pat his back. My goal was to be able to hold him and just touch him without him feeling like he was being traumatized. And we accomplished that through many different techniques that I never would have known about, never even thought about.
It's amazing what foster parents and adoptive parents will do once they understand. Once they understand that this 6-year-old is in a 6-year-old body, but really needs to be rocked at night like a baby, they're willing to do it. They soak it up. And so it becomes hopeful for them that they can actually live out their commitment to this child. Because to break that commitment is awful for those children and for the families.
The first thing I remember Kelly saying is, "You're not alone." That gave me so much encouragement, because I knew from that point on that I wasn't alone, that I could share my fears and my anxieties with her, and she could assure me that everything was going to be okay.
We started out just listening and letting her talk and letting her tell us what it felt like.
Kelly was great to say, "Hey, stop beating yourself up. You're doing an amazing job." And it took a while for me to believe that, and she knew that. That's why she would repeat it and say it over and over and over, to make sure, she wanted to make sure that I truly believed that I was a good mom and I was doing what I could for Mason, and that Mason was, what he was doing was normal. His response to things was very normal, but that we could work on him. It could be corrected. It wasn't a done deal. It wasn't a forever thing. So it was just a wealth of hope that every mom deserves to have.
Children do go back to their developmental path, and they do learn how to be free and learn how to have a good time and learn how to grow.
When we see children, you look in their eyes and there's something there. You see some potential, some glimmer of hope. You see that child inside, beyond the kicking, beyond the biting, beyond the 5 hours of tantruming and I can't sleep. You know it's there. So having a support network that helps you discover what it is I need to do to help this child become who he is.
Center for Children and Families was so helpful and so inspiring, knowing that we weren't the only family struggling, and that what we were going through was very normal and that it was going to be okay. For me, it was just so comforting to know that I didn't have to go through it alone. And because I know about Center for Children and Families, I can make sure that there won't ever be another mom that has to go through that alone.